Greetings. Today we'll be discussing the need of reforms and changes in local services as an effect of the international growth of a country. As a first example, we can talk about the economic crisis of 2008. Why? Because this originally surged from the high home prices on said country and also the lack of control over credit use. However, the effect was global, as many companies and other territories were forced to look on the reducement of their foreign investment in order to stay on business. On the case of the United States, this served as a lesson to manage a stricter control over the use of credits, but on the other countries, this served as a wake-up call. First, they realized of the effects that other countries had on their internal economies and also of the need of reforms in order to create a safer environment for business in order to keep the foreign investment. On 2010, while the world was getting back on its feet, there was a huge reform phenomenon in which 131 countries started to work on reforms based on business, on which some topics that can be mentioned are the employment of workers, the following up of contracts, and the protection of investors. These topics are the ones that we'll be seeing today. Imagine you start a business on Chile and that your workers are faced with manual operations day to day that could put them at risk, such as mining labor or the installment of dangerous equipment. Providing the safest environment of work is important not just because that's one of your responsibilities as a contractor, but also because of the repercussions, legal and both economical, that could be faced if said potential risks are not properly attended. And also, as a worker, you want to have the reassurance that if said accidents were to come, that you will come with a proper healthcare system that will attend your necessities in those times. It was under these circumstances that the Asociación Chilena de Seguridad, also known as the ACHS, first came into place. However, before we start to discuss the problematic that they face around this year, we will provide some context about the business environment of Chile. By 2010, 28,000 companies were started on Chile every year, and ACHS, with 4,000 employers, provided risk prevention services and also healthcare system for 38,000 companies. This was a time of growth for said country. Even if it wasn't as big as the past, there were some merits worth mentioning. For example, it was recognized as the most competitive economy of Latin America at the time, and it also became the first country of the said region to join the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And also, it has some competitive human resources that could be compared to those of United States and European countries. However, not everything was as good as it seems, as more companies entered the country, so the business environment became tougher, and the capacity to provide a service that they could be satisfied for became more difficult to do as security challenges became more apparent. This made the ACHS stakeholders become nervous with the apparent struggle of said company to provide a service that could satisfy and also minimize the nation's accident rate. This could be explained under the reasoning that despite of the clearly economical growth of the country, the wealth was unevenly distributed among the population, and so 9 of 10 workers on Chile gained less than the minimum average salary on developed countries. This could also be reflected on the public healthcare system, in which 72% of the population was affiliated. However, 40% of it couldn't even afford to pay the contributions required for its efficient operation. Another struggle that can be mentioned was the political climate of the country. Due to the changes in office, the representatives often asked for the ACHS to focus on different things during the terms of said representatives, and so the company became unable to stay on track with a single objective. And so on 2010, the ACHS faced its first operational deficit, with its organization's operating expenses growing, and also their retirement funds facing a 40 million liability, the lack of success on its services was undeniable. ACHS had become unable to comply with both local and foreign companies' requirements, and so it marked the first step of Ferman Gasmuri towards the solution. By first proposing the retirement of heavy men and the seek of external assistance of a consulting company, the, the problems that were found were the lack of innovation and organization between the many facilities that ACHS had with its headquarters. The strategic solution that was designed was based on four key factors. One was maintaining a balance between the risk prevention services and the healthcare system. Two was the restructure of the board of directors that had been unable to help on the past, the reduction of operational costs, and a result-oriented culture. However, there was another struggle that must be recognized, but this one was national, as it happens when Chile decided to join the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and this was to recognize the fact of the inequality of distribution of wealth on the country, which affects the ACHS because they have to design a way to adapt their services in order to keep them available to the average worker. Now, what does this local struggle of a local company have to do with the international business environments? As we can see, as a country grows either through the entering of foreign companies or the formation of alliance through international agreements, many things can come into line. First, that the companies can support each other, and while one struggles, then the other is also affected, but also that internal struggles can come into light. In the case of the ACHS, the lack of proactivity of its executive president Hermans make that the company on the long run become unable to even satisfy local requirements.